If there's things that you're not good at or you don't know, then ask for help and prioritize, invest in that help. Even as the smallest company, there's things that you shouldn't be doing and don't need to be doing, and you don't need to figure it out. I had a 4.0 grade point average. I was great at math, but I was CPA for a reason.
Yeah, correct. Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace. Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. It's one of my favorite places to hang out because you're here. And today I'm excited because I have, for season 2, our very first male guest. And that's only special because when I met Eric Twohey about, maybe 6 months ago, I met him, thought he was amazing. We had a one-to-one on Zoom and was like, there's more. I really want to share him with this audience. He is a marketing guru. He has an amazing company, and I'm going to have him share about that. And I'd like for you to meet Eric. Eric, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about your company, but include something we're not going to read on your bio or find on your website?
Yeah, so it's awesome, and I'm very honored, Tish, to be here and also sounds like the first male.
Yes.
So when I got that invite, I was so excited to come here today. So yeah, we own Uncorked Media Group. We are a marketing agency, but we're strategy focused first. Yeah. And really, we named it because we have a passion for wine. My wife and I, Mary Ellen, are the owners of the company. We have a team of 10 that works with us, and we don't necessarily work in wine professionally, but that's really a big part of our why is to go to different wine regions throughout the world. So we famously have been over 1,000 wine regions and counting throughout the US and beyond. And that's why we named our company Uncorked Media Group. A big part of that is why we enjoy going to different wine regions is because when you go them, a lot of times they're family owned and operated like we are. Yeah. They're farmers first and foremost. And so they work with the soil, and wine's really much like an art form. And so we found out that most of our best conversations are over a glass of wine, about wine, or start happening because of wine as like a catalyst. Wow. So that's become a big part of our personal journey and our story, and why we named the company Uncorked Media Group.
Well, first of all, thanks for sharing that, because I knew that there was a wine story. Yeah. I didn't understand the roots of it, so I'm glad that you shared that.
Yeah,
very good.
Literally the roots.
Yeah, literally, right?
And both of us grew up on opposite coasts, but have kind of more rural background, so we really appreciate, we feel, in general, a lot of us have got disconnected from society, has gotten disconnected from a lot of roots of different things, including farming. And at the end of the day, you can't make a great wine without, great grapes. And that starts in the vineyard. And so when you go and actually see where someone plants the grapes, and when you're talking to somebody who's made the wine, not only are they sharing their art with you, but there's a story of the place, or terroir as they call it, which is the fancy French word for a very specific, sense of space or place. And it's their story. And when they're sharing that with you, and you can see where it grew, where the grapes grew, and they're telling you like how the sun hits or how the fog comes in or whatever. For us, it's like, wow, that's a powerful experience. Yeah. The wine's great, but it's like, it's really that experience with that connection with other people. And that's what we enjoy and what we bring to our company as marketers.
I love that. It's interesting. I feel like you feel about wine how I feel about coffee. I'm all about a good coffee bean, and I love, farmers that create that experience as well.
There's a lot of parallels when you get into the nuances of both of those things. Yeah, we like coffee as well, and are connoisseurs in that, not as much as wine, but totally know what you're saying, because you get a good like Kona coffee or something like that, and you're like, oh wow, you can, you really start getting and a lot of the people who would be like sommeliers, that on the wine region, like you have the same kind of people that will dig into coffee.
For sure. Absolutely.
And it's really cool to connect with some of those people in the coffee world too. There's a little balance.
It's so funny. I was at a client, I'm from El Paso, Texas. So I was in El Paso and I went to a client's office. And like often, they offered me a cup of coffee. And I very politely said, no, thank you. And he looks at me, he goes, you're a coffee snob, aren't you? I was like, yes, I am. Well, I'm like, I don't want to be rude. So I'm like, I'm going to drink it. I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to name any brand names, but there's a couple I'm like, I'm not drinking that.
Sure.
So he said he used to be a director of a very large, well-named coffee plant. And so when he made me a cup of coffee, it was better than anything I'd ever had before. And so now, for a long time, I'd go by just to get a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
We'd sit around. We did a lot of business together eventually, of course, but it was very cool. So,
but see how coffee was the catalyst.
Oh, for certain.
So we've had the same thing with wine, even though it's not core, it's not the customers that we deal with, but it's just added so much to our life. It's really like the balance of, kind of that live, work, play, type of thing.
I love that. Yeah. Eric, how did you end up in marketing? Was it something that you sought out to do? Is it something that you kind of happened upon? How did you end up in this field?
I have a very creative background. When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I wanted to be an artist, like a visual artist. And I ended up turning that into one of the degrees I got. I got a degree in art studio just because it was something I wanted to pursue, but it wasn't like the main thing. And I took enough classes where I was realizing I was graduating with a degree in communication studies. And that was more kind of marketing, messaging related, context, all these type of things. And then I was like, well, I'm only about 9 units away from having the second degree in art because I took a bunch of other classes as opposed to a minor. Why don't I just stay another semester and do that after? So I actually graduated, walked, and before I got my diploma, I got the second degree.
Wow.
And so I have that creative background where I've already been able to mix it, but I haven't had like the starving artist stereotype. So I've been able to have the creative juices, but also be able to communicate that to people at scale and really build a lot of relationships, and that's core to our company. And so that's what really led me to marketing. I've always thought of like creative ideas, quippy things, a lot of humor. I like to have a good time, and our brand is very fun loving, obviously, with the inspiration behind the name that I shared with you. And so it really translates to like kind of our overall approach to marketing. We feel like it should be fun, to market your business. And even if you don't have a fun type of business, it doesn't mean that the process to tell your story and really, do unique things with your marketing can't be fun to do.
So true. So I always find that people tend to kind of lump sales and marketing into one thing. We know that there is a difference. There's absolutely a symbiotic relationship, but
Absolutely.
How would you describe the difference between sales and marketing, and where do you think people kind of get tripped up between those two?
Yeah, a lot of times, and even in marketing, it's so general. A lot of times advertising and marketing get put together. And so that's something common all the time where I'm talking to people and I'm having to explain the difference between advertising and marketing.
Right.
And then you have marketing and sales that get siloed. So they need to be, there is symbiotic relationship, and they need to talk to each other. Yeah. So the marketing element is more, it's your brand, it's your story, it's your differentiators, it's those key things that almost frame and prep the sale and make the sale from an emotional level, set those expectations, your customer experience. It's a lot of those things that set up. So what it's doing, ideally, marketing at its highest level, is it's stacking the deck for your sales so that the sales becomes easy or the sales is almost done.
Right.
And the best companies, they really do that because at the end of the day, marketing, we make all of our buying decisions off of about 15 core emotions and a bunch of other subset emotions, which from the sales process as well. Right. Well, marketers, if we know that, we can leverage that, ourselves and do it in an ethical way that makes sense for our particular brand.
Right.
And then when you're going in and making those emotional connections, well, people are already going over that belief bridge on sales, and going, oh, well, these are my people. Oh yeah, they identify with my problem, or they can provide the solution, or they like dogs and I like dogs, or they like wine and I like wine, right? They like coffee, I like coffee. If there's something else like that that's even sometimes outside the core of the business, and it gets people emotional, that's what ultimately drives them to make that purchasing decision. So that's when great marketing, can hand the baton very happily to sales to finish that race.
Yeah. Where do you think most business owners, especially small business owners, or those who are kind of doing it themselves right now and maybe not have a big company or a company like Uncorked managing that for them, where do you think people are dropping the ball or maybe missing some nuances in that marketing that could lead to more sales?
Yeah, most people just don't simply have a strategy.
There you go.
And so it's like anything else. A lot of people are doing what I call spray and pray.
Yes.
Where they're just throwing money at tactics and effort, and they come from a good place. So I have a lot of empathy for this. I'm not making fun of people, but it's something that we commonly see.
Right.
And so what I tell people is the bottom line is to be intentional with what you're doing. And if you have an intention beyond it, then you usually have an awareness that comes from that, and you're trying to at least build a process. Then, win, lose, or draw, whatever, you might make some errors. Nothing's perfect, right? We're failing our way to success as entrepreneurs anyways. Or if you want to say you're not failing, you're learning, right? You're learning and doing those things. But if you're doing them with intention, you're probably going to have a higher batting average from the beginning and get it more right than wrong. And then you can refine because you're on an intentional path, as as opposed to just trying other things and then throwing money at the next shiny object or whatever it is.
For sure. How often do you find people who've basically in their mind tried it all, and then they come to you with, kind of all of these pieces, and you kind of have to put it together? What's the one thing that you find is, that you're kind of having to say, okay, this is what's probably missing on this process?
Well, digital marketing has become such a big thing, and it should.
Yeah.
And especially over the last 20 years, it's evolved and recreated itself and expanded. I mean, social media is not even 20 years old or getting right around that. We just had the 20th anniversary of the first YouTube video was like the last week or whatever, right? So we've come a long ways in a short period of time. And when you look at that, the digital and having a digital presence is so key. But beyond that, a lot of people stick to the digital. Right. And yet we're still humans and we interact in direct marketing, and sales and things like that. That's one of the most effective ways to market is person to person. You just can't do that at scale. So it's one of those things, but it's still one of the best things for close rates and whatnot as well. So you need a digital thing, a digital side of it and a digital backing. But strategic partnerships we help people out with, public relations. A lot of these things are offline type of related tactics that are related to an intentional strategy for them that get them attention and just authentically form relationships in a digital world. And a lot of people aren't doing that. Even direct mail's made a big comeback the last couple of years where the numbers declined for many years, which made sense. But I'm like, it's still, it still has a place as far as a layer. Now, are you going to do that as opposed to any digital marketing? No. But it's just like financial, investing or things like that, or going to the gym. These are the metaphors that I draw in a lot of conversations. It's consistent, persistent actions that are intentional over time. Right. And if you're stacking, your reps, whatever it is, if you're dollar cost averaging and putting in the market, or if you're going to the gym with intention of what you're training and doing different, exercises, sets, stretches, whatever it might be, and you have someone like a personal trainer guiding you, or we're very much a consultative kind of guide, someone like yourself, the same type of thing. When you have that approach and have someone walking you through, you're going to have a much better level of success than if you're just trying with no plan.
Figuring it out on your own.
Right? If you skip a leg day, I don't even have a plan for leg day. Well, how are you ever going to have the legs that you want, right?
So good. So interestingly, you said something that just literally touched my heart.
What was that?
The marketing, still having that personal touch, still having that human component. How do we, when I look at the market right now, and I know you see this as well, there's so many people that with the advent of AI and all these various things have kind of removed that personal touch that really causes people to feel seen and feel like they're heard. How do we reincorporate that back into our marketing if we've gotten off track?
Really, ideally, you should have some idea from a marketing standpoint. You should have a North Star. What are your core values? What are your mission? What are your purpose? What are those things? And we were just working with someone on that this morning who's a second generation company. The daughter took it over from her father, and she's had the company now for I think it's just 16 years that she's been, and we're redoing all of their foundational messaging because it was just a continuation on. And she realized as a great leader of hey, we have a whole nother company than what we once were. And I have a whole different identity, and we really want to lean into that. And so we've started kind of to reformat things, in progress from the beginning. And, we just had a workshop with them where we're working on these type of things, because as a marketer, I want to know, even if they haven't worked with a business coach or somebody to do this, or people that specialize in these type of things, if they don't have that in place as a marketer, I'm asking them these questions when we're having our first exploratory conversation. If we're going to work together. Because when you have that North Star, when you have that understanding, you can go back to those things and be like, who am I? Who am I really trying to serve? Why does my company exist? And what do I really want to do? What's the why behind what I'm doing? What impact do I want to have in the world? And sometimes we all get busy and lose our way or whatever. Well, if you have these things documented, you can go really quick back to those things and say, oh yeah, perception check. Hey, am I doing what I set out to do? Am I showing up the way I want to show up? And then from there, once you've done that, it's okay, does this make sense for what I'm intentionally trying to do for my marketing or my sales strategy or my people, my employees maybe, or my vendors? Am I showing up the way that I authentically want to show up with my brand? And the whole idea of being a business owner, not working in the corporate side of things, is that you have the ability to shift and to build whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that's why most people are drawn to it, but sometimes over time pressures or whatever else, you start losing that.
So good.
And so the more you have these things documented and the more intentional you are with them, with all parts of the operations, then the more you kind of, I call, create your own luck.
Well, first of all, y'all are going to want to go back and listen to our operations conversation we just had with Kendi Brown and Val, because we just had, you're so on point. I think that we forget that at one point we sat down and wrote down what we wanted this company to be.
Yeah.
You know, who do we want to show up as? What do we want people to experience when they engage with us? And it's so easy, especially from a sales perspective, and I think you would say from a marketing as well, to get off with all of the trends that are happening. And, you know, we need to make a quick change because we need to get these other things sold right away. And we sometimes can get so far off from who we are and what we originally said we wanted to do. So I think that's such great advice.
It's getting back on track if you lose it, right?
For sure.
Or just even having as subtle reminders.
I love that.
And so that's a big part of just having that North Star to kind of guide you, because we all, you know, need a little, and collaboration. It's a big thing too.
So true.
You know, whether it be employees or contractors or help people, you know, whatever you're not strong at, the best leaders, even in small business, they'll go find somebody that's smarter than them to either take it off their plate or guide them through that process.
For sure.
And that's become a thing that I think that is a newer trend, where it's not all, you know, macho and I'm fine by myself. It's like, hey, you know, we can get along by with a little help from our friends.
Exactly.
and that's a big thing. And so a big part of, I think, our company's success has been realizing we've been open to collaboration in all sorts of formats.
Yeah.
And so we often have, you know, different ways and different partnerships. And that's brought us a lot of community connectivity and impact that is just beyond what we do to make money.
I love that.
And so for me, that's fulfilling. Like every day I get to, you know, wake up and be like, let's go. Like, I'm not like, oh, I have to do this. It's like, no, I get to,
right? Yep. That's amazing. Have you ever gone to a networking event or a conference and found that although you made great connections and you walked away with a stack full of business cards, you still didn't have a real plan for how to get a good return on your investment of both time and money? Well, let me tell you, having a networking and sales planner is a way for you to be more intentional about the way that you network.
Hey, I'm Susan Gladstein. I'm a functional nutrition and metabolism specialist, and I got connected with Tish because she is a rock star at systems and sales, and so I downloaded the planner to help get my brain organized as I went through a rebrand and launched a new course, and it's really helped me sort of get things out of my head and onto paper so that I can actually do follow-ups and not just rely on my brain. So far it's rocking my world and making my business systems that were non-existent actually have some sort of structure. So I love it. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed.
I've been working with sales professionals for almost 15 years. And one of the things that I find is that when they don't have a plan, they do nothing. They sit at their desk and wonder what to do. Well, with this networking and sales planner, you have profit producing activities for every single day of the week. It tells you where to go, what to say, even gives you prompts as to how to interact with people that you don't know. If you're an introvert and you feel like this isn't for you, I have already thought of you because I understand exactly how introverts think. So this gives you the tools enabling you to be armed with words, with language, so that you can make your networking more profitable.
Hey everyone, Rachel Neighbors here from solo401k.com. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about how awesome this sales networking planner is that Tish put out. So as you can see, I have it on my Remarkable. That's my sort of e-ink planner. And this sales planner has been so helpful for me. So I'm an old school pay-per-click marketer. I do Google ads, Facebook ads, and I know how to turn advertising into profit. But I didn't know how to turn network sales into profit. And when I met Tish, I mean, this woman literally wrote the book on networking called, Networking is Not a One-Night Stand. And she's put that experience and that energy and those valuable tips into this networking sales planner. And I just think that it can be so powerful for you in your business. I know it's been really helpful for me and mine. One thing that Tish told me is, Rachel, when you meet someone, put them into your planner and then follow up with them like they're a lead that you've generated on Google Ads or that you followed up with or that you've generated on Facebook. And that has been so helpful and transformative in my business. So thank you, Tish, for this awesome planner.
Maybe you don't even like networking. You say things like, networking doesn't work. Well, let me tell you, when you have a plan in place, you have some intention, and you have the tools to be able to make it work, you will see a different result. My new networking and sales planner is a game changer. It's the difference between you going to an event, wandering around and walking away without any purpose and without any new money, and walking into an event with a plan, with a purpose, and being able to convert new clients into your business. No one wants to feel inauthentic and pushy or even salesy when following up. So frequently we just don't do it at all. Well, the profitable follow-up formula, which is in the back of your networking and sales planner, will give you the tools and the language and the frequency with which you should be following up so that it feels very authentic. It feels genuine and natural both to you and to the people that you're reaching out to. Go to tishtimes.com/planner to get your digital or physical version of your planner.
Hi, my name is Cheryl James from CL James Consulting, and I just want to tell you a little bit about how awesome this networking sales planner is. I started intentionally networking at the beginning of this year, and I have been using my planner on a regular basis, not only to get inspiration, but to track the people I want to meet and the people I have met, and to make sure that I follow up with them from week to week. So if you are looking to network intentionally and hold yourself accountable, this planner is a must-have.
And once you get your planner, you'll also receive a video series that's going to teach you how to maximize your networking and how to use this planner to get the best result and best return on your investment of both time and money. If you are ready to stop wasting time with networking and turn your networking into a sales machine, then go to tishtimes.com/planner and grab your networking and sales planner. So I want to switch gears just a little bit.
So switch them.
Okay, so I believe that on some level we've kind of morphed, if you will, into the person that we are right now. But at some point, I believe, just like you talked about the core values and all that, we have to kind of decide, okay, who do I need to become in order to really live the life that I desire? So Eric, who do you believe you've had to become to enjoy the success that your company and you and your family, you get to enjoy at this moment?
I had to be someone that was intentional. So, my wife's my business partner, and we started working together before we were even married. And so it was part of our relationship. Kind of the history of our relationship was, hey, we have this company. I'd started it, but it was like most of, what's in front of us is opportunity. And we get to carve that. And when you're working together, well, you get to, the benefit is that you get to, have the impact of your lifestyle with that too. But it's also what lifestyle do we want to live, and how do we want to, have the business, work for us as opposed to us just being able to work for the business. And so we had, 5 and 10 year plans as a couple, but the business was a big part of that. And there's lots of different models that you can do with like marketing agencies. And for us, it was freedom and flexibility. And that became our North Star. So we could have, and this was, 13 years ago or so. So we could, at the time, it was much more likely to have a retail location, maybe be like the Biltmore or something here, be the big advertising agency, have the big boardroom, have a lot of employees, do all this kind of stuff. You're there all the time. But then I went and I said, that's not really what we want to do. And is this who we really want to serve? So I went and asked a lot of my best customers and a lot of my prospects. And I said, hey, Phoenix is spread out. If I had a central location and I got you whatever beverage that you want when you came in, and gave you a big presentation on the screen and everything when you came in, they're like, no, I like it when you come see my warehouse. I like meeting with you around the corner when I, have have a little small break for lunch.
Yeah.
Most entrepreneurs that we support, they're too busy to go just like drive halfway across the valley to go do something.
Very true.
And so I was like, wow, well, this doesn't fit our lifestyle. And my people, the people that we're attracting, who we want to serve, they don't really value it either.
Yeah.
So we were working remotely at times, and especially in Phoenix, it's a little advantageous to get out of summer where we're approaching here. So we've been, leaving for chunks of the summer, and our business doesn't suffer from it.
I love that.
And then who we serve is a lot of like, C-suite, CEOs, things like that. A lot of them are leaving too. Yeah. So they want to have virtual meetings. They want to, and as a lot of marketing is intentional.
Yes.
So we're not doing a lot of reactive things. So we'll set things up where, things are rinse and repeat and doing real well over the summertime. And even if it's their busy season, like HVAC or something like that, they don't want to meet. If they're gone, they don't want to meet.
Right.
So we set it up where everybody feels good about things that are working. And then we don't have to worry about like, oh, let's just meet for the sake of meeting.
Yeah.
It's really the people we support. It's like, why have meetings that you don't need to have?
So true. I learned that the hard way because with my first business, which was a staffing company, I had it in my head that I had to have the big building or the big, office and the high-rise bank building with the wood floors and big staff and everything. And I literally remember Eric going into my office sometime and closing my door going, what the heck am I doing? Yeah. It wasn't what I really wanted to do. It was what I thought my clients needed. And I found out, just like you did, they wanted to work with me. Yeah. They didn't care, about all the fancy stuff and all the overhead that was costing me way too much money anyway. And, way before it was popular to work from home, I did it. Yeah. And found out that surprisingly, people still wanted to work with me, They
wanted Tish anyway.
They didn't care.
Isn't that amazing? They didn't want the fancy, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
And there's lots of models that work that way. Yeah. I have friends that have built agencies, and some of them have got acquired, and that's what they wanted to do. Right. And I've been the biggest cheerleader for that. I'm like, congratulations. For sure. That's what you want to do. That's what's great about it is you can choose your own path. Yeah. And not all, companies that do in the same industry do the same thing at all. For sure. And that's the beauty of like kind of the small to mid-sized businesses.
I love that we have the flexibility to do what works for our company. I remember having to wear business, and again, no disrespect to business suits, wear them if you need to, but I was just like, that's kind of not me. I like my shoulders out. You know what I mean? I like to be able to wear what I want. And I love that intentionality. I really do.
It's a big thing. It's a big unlock. Like self-awareness, I think, is a superpower. That's what I always say too. Because at least allows you to, be humble and understand things that maybe you're not strong in or that you need help in, and also go, hey, I need to ask for that help. Yeah. I need to get that collaboration. I need to bring somebody on my team who is better at that than me or can relieve my time. So, and especially, myself being the president of the company, it's like there's things that I'm capable of. I've always been multi-talented. Great. But it's like if I'm trying to do everything, then I'm not serving the way I want to. Not at all. So I've had to make sure, you make room by giving up things so that you can have kind of the highest and best use of your time.
I need you to say that one more time. Yeah. You make room by,
what did I say?
Giving up things. That's so good.
So that way you can focus on the highest and best use of your time.
That's so good. So if there's someone listening to this right now and they're kind of saying, what's one thing I can do right now to make the marketing of my business work better than it's working? Like they're kind of, and I know there's probably multiple components that you'd have to look at, but if there's one thing that someone needs to do right now in the world of marketing, what's the one most important thing would you say?
Have that intentionality, and that'll be if you're not already doing that, be intentional about your foundations. Yeah. Go back to the beginning and just have a quick conversation with yourself. If you're a solopreneur, it's like, hey, why did I do this? What do I want to do? What are my goals? And then there's usually makes sense that there's actions that are tied to those goals. Right. It's the smaller goals that get to the bigger goals. And then if there's things that you're not good at or you don't know, then ask for help and prioritize, invest in that help. Even as the smallest company, there's things that you shouldn't be doing and don't need to be doing, and you don't need to figure it out. Yeah. So collaboration in any way, shape, or form, whether it's mentorship, there's tons of free resources. There's obviously stuff online. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that want to give. There's a lot of really good collaboration communities here where people want to give back related to that, and then pay for some help. Yeah. Like I had a 4.0 grade point average. I was great at math, but I have a CPA for a reason. Yeah. Right. So I on a high level, I know what he's talking about when we have our conversations. Right. But at the end of the day, do I know all the tax codes and all these other things and what's going on?
Yeah, nor should you. Not necessarily.
Once again,
yeah.
Give that up.
Yeah.
Trust somebody that's a professional
Mm-hmm.
and know enough about what they need to do so that you make sure you have the right people helping you.
Yeah.
But beyond having a basic knowledge of those type of things, then it's like, let some of it go.
I love
Make
that.
room for what you want to do. And then you're going to have more success regardless
Yes.
because you're leaning into the things of why you wanted to run the company or you built the company to begin with.
Very, very good. This is such a great conversation.
Yeah.
So what's something that someone would get working with Uncorked Media that they might not get from another media agency or marketing agency?
Yeah, the biggest compliment that we receive, I take it as a compliment. They say, when the first time we talked to you guys, you sound different than other marketing agencies. And I go, thank you.
Yeah.
Because I've differentiated myself. And then key of marketing is to, be kind of one of one.
Yeah.
And even though you might do things that are relatively commoditized. A lot of the services in marketing are commoditized, but that's why I realized this many years ago, and I saw things that were coming our way fast, and things like AI that you mentioned earlier are now here and getting more robust. But I'm like, those are all related to tactics.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is like you can push a lot of easy buttons and get a lot of outputs, but it's the output is what you get is what you put into it.
So true.
And so, AI is a fantastic tool, but it gives you a nice draft or it gives you something. But to be personalized, you need to know yourself first before you can use any tool. Ooh. So whether it's a vendor, whether it's AI, whatever it is, you need to let people, you really have to have an understanding. If not, you're going to sound like everybody else and you're going to sound vanilla.
Oh, God.
And so that's a big part of ours, the strategy forward, marketing agency that we are. That's a big thing. We talk to people about things outside of marketing.
Yeah.
But then when we talk about, what we're actually going to do, we stay in the marketing realm. Right. But I talk to them about things like sales and operations and culture and a lot of these things like that because they all tie into marketing.
Right.
But sometimes someone might need someone like yourself, Tish,
yeah.
and we need to get you in there first because why are we going to ramp up their marketing and kick up new ads and get new if they're not doing well with the leads that they have right now? If they're not closing, if they have a closing problem, we need to get you in there first.
Yeah, and vice versa. Same with me. Sometimes I feel like people are not presenting themselves as themselves, exactly. Right? And so therefore they're wondering why they're attracting the wrong leads and they don't even understand what's happening. So symbiotic, right?
Yeah, that's the big thing. And so when I talk to someone, because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm talking to another entrepreneur, I put myself like as if I was the CEO, right. I'm usually talking to the CEO. So I'm putting myself like in their shoes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, from where I see, just 30,000 foot view of what, your business way better than me. I'm not trying to come in and tell you what to do or that I know better, but I'm also an outside and sometimes we're all too close to things.
Yeah.
So there might be things that I see that are beyond the marketing realm. And I think that's a lot of the stickiness to our company is people communicate and say, wow, yeah, you helped me with the marketing things and the strategy makes sense because we're being intentional. So we had less of a chance to, have churn or waste, or we can get results faster. So those are all great marketing outcomes. But a lot of the things are like, hey, you guys helped us much beyond marketing.
Right.
And it's not because we're providing other services. It's just we're looking at these things and then we pride ourselves on our network. So not only do you get us, you get our network with people like yourself where it's like, hey, we're seeing that you might have a sales issue. Let's not spend more on marketing. We can do some stuff and fix some things behind the scenes, but you might have a bigger sales issue than you have a marketing issue.
So true. My goodness.
Or you might have an operations issue, or you might have a hiring issue. You might have a personnel issue. You might have a, something else.
Yeah.
And so looking at being able to see that and even pumping the brakes before we're getting paid to get somebody else in there that can help quarterback something else gives more value to the company and ideally will strengthen those relationships. And that's why, a lot of marketing agencies is something like 4 months is the average engagement. Ours is like 4 years.
That's amazing.
Because we're a marketing department that's flexible with them through their different phases of business. So we're built to last from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And so we approach the partnerships like that. And if it's not a right fit, we're just not going to do it to begin with.
Yeah.
And so there's not bait and switch. There's not these things. It's like we're getting in the boat with you and we're rowing. Mm-hmm. So it's like we want to make sure that it's leaders that we feel and we want to be part of the business and we want to feel good about what they're doing as well. So if they don't know who they are, if they don't know why they exist, if they don't want to serve, if they don't want to have an impact, they're probably not our people. And we have a lot of other marketers in our network that would be happy. They do a great job. That would be happy to recommend them to.
Good gracious. Our time is over. It just feels like we have so much more to say. The one thing I will definitely love to echo that you said, Eric, is like being one of one. being able to set yourself apart so much to where it's not about competition at all. You know where your collaboration partners are, but you really set yourself apart and really care about the outcomes for your clients. That to me is like the biggest thing. Yeah. You're, coming across as a person, as a human that cares about the results that you're providing for your clients.
And I'm sure you used the phrase or heard it, your vibe will attract your tribe, right?
Yeah.
We're not trying to be all things to all people. And that's a big misnomer like that happens with marketing where people are trying to mass market and like, then you're not talking, if you're trying to talk to everybody, you're not talking to anybody, right?
So true.
And so it's like the more you're authentically you and show up, the more you're going to attract your people. And most companies, most businesses, it's an abundance mindset. Yeah. There's you don't want to serve everybody.
You can't.
If everybody called me, today, that's even in one of our small towns around Phoenix, I would fill my schedule for weeks. I couldn't even do a consultation and a discovery or anything like that with everybody.
So true.
Right? So like, I just need to find our people, and we're the one of one to them and resonate just like yourself. Yeah. You're looking for your people.
Absolutely. Eric, thank you so much for being here today. Will you share with our audience how they can reach you at Uncorked Media?
Yeah, uncorkedmediagroup.com. We're on a lot of the socials, your favorite socials as well. We're also big networkers, and that's how we connected as well. So if you're big into the networking scene, you can reach me on LinkedIn. My last name's Twohey. Connect with me there. I'll share a lot of marketing tips and other things like that. And if you want to follow our wine-related travels, that's a fun project we had called Travels Uncorked. So you can look at that on YouTube or Instagram or on the social as well, but we put a lot of YouTube content out regarding our wine travels. So a lot of people, when they learn about our inspiration, they're like, well, what do you do when you're not doing marketing? I'm like, it's usually wine travel related. So let's go.
Very good. Well, once again, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. And I know we have a lot more to talk about.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks so
Tish.
much. Absolutely. We'll see you all back here next week for more amazing guests and more talk about how sales changes everything. Have a good one. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I'd love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.